Hello. Thank you for joining Tales of a Death Doula. I am Martha, and I am a certified death doula, and I help coach people to make the arrangements towards their end-of-life planning and also to help them in the dying process, to help coach them through with guidance and ceremony, and help coach the family and be there to help them understand the natural progression of the dying process as things are happening towards the end of life. And I created this podcast, Tales of a Death Doula, to explore the lessons that death has to teach us about how to live a better life. There's so much rich information about how to live better when we understand the lessons of how to die. And so that's kind of what we're doing here on this podcast, is exploring all kinds of lessons that I myself am learning as I continue my studies and my journey of the spiritual awakening into all of these lessons about life and death, and discussing so many topics related to how to live a better life so that we can have a better death. Today, I want to continue an exploration that we started in our previous podcast, talking about some lessons about what's happening in today's environment. We're calling it the choice point. This is a point in the world right now where we are on very realistic levels facing a choice. There's a lot of political elections. There's actual elections going on right now in the United States. This is 2024 as I'm recording this podcast. But it's not just in the United States. There's elections, major elections going on in a lot of countries throughout the world right now. And it seems like we are, in a very real way, being offered the opportunity to choose what kind of future world we want to live in by voting. You know, it's real. Like, these are real choices that we're being presented right now. But it also reaches on a spiritual level. I recently had an ayahuasca journey. Ayahuasca is a plant medicine that is an ancient medicine that's been used down in Central and South America for thousands of years. And it is a hallucinogenic medicine that creates an atmosphere for a real spiritual transcendence. And on my ayahuasca journey recently, the lesson that I was given was that we are at the choice point right now. And in my ayahuasca journey, my guides took me down to the underworld, and I was offered the opportunity to give demons and kind of some scary creatures the choice of, do you choose love or do you choose fear? And the lesson in that was that we're all going through that right now. Humans on this planet, in real life, we're all getting that choice right now. Do you choose love or do you choose fear? And they got real clear with me. My spirit guides got real clear with me about what that means. And choosing fear is choosing to separate yourself from God and from others, to make the other person bad, evil, wrong, to lots of judgment, lots of persecution, lots of hate and anger and fear. We all know that hate and anger and judgment all boil, envy, depression, all of these kind of lower vibrational level emotional frequencies boil down to fear. Fear is the root cause of the hurt. Fear is the root cause of the pain. Fear is the root cause of the judgment. Fear is the root cause of the envy. And that if you choose to live your life in that fear, you're going to have a whole different perception of reality than if you choose to live your life out of a loving perspective of the universe. You know, Albert Einstein actually, this brings up a quote, Albert Einstein actually had a quote saying that you can either choose to believe that the universe is against you, or you can choose to believe that the universe is for you and helping you. And that's kind of, this is the choice that we all get to make in life. Do you believe that this is a hostile universe out to get you, and that the boogeyman's going to get you, and that there's awful, horrible things in the world? Or do you believe that we are all children of God, and that we are all capable of love, and that we have love, the spark of the divine holy love in each of us, and that the universe has your back, that the universe is creating things for your highest good and teaching you lessons, even hard lessons that you don't want to learn, that are painful to go through. Everything that happens, if you choose to believe it, can be for your highest good. So these are the choices that we're all being faced with right now today. There's a lot of chaos in the world. There's a lot of evidence that a lot of people are choosing fear. We have so many wars going on right now in Ukraine, in the Middle East, in Venezuela. There's not a war, but there's a lot of chaos going on in Central America and South America, over in Africa. There's a lot of stuff happening right now that is very fear-based, and a lot of fear-mongering in our political system right now today. There's a very clearly a lot of fear-mongering going on right now. And, you can buy into that and choose that as your reality and vote for that and vote to have that, manifest. Or you can choose to see that we are all in this together, that we are all human beings on this planet, that we are more alike than we are different, that we all just truly want to have our freedoms and live our lives and have the ability to do that in the best way possible without hurting other people, and that most people on this planet just want to take care of their families, have a nice house, and have food to eat. That's most people on this planet, no matter what color you are, no matter what country you're from, no matter what religious background you're from, that is what we're all like that. We all want that. But the choice point in the spiritual sense that's happening right now is more of a choice between staying on that 3D kind of plane of fear, or do you want to choose and kind of level up in your ascension journey and go on to the 5D plane, which is a different perspective of reality. It's when you get into the dimensional perspectives of reality, it gets a little woo-woo-y, right? It gets a little weird and strange, and people, they get kind of freaked out about that. But on a very real level, this is happening, and it's time to face what you truly believe and what reality you truly want. Do you want to live in the 3D plane and just keep, working for your dollar and working for the man and struggle, strife, fear, hatred, judgment, separation? Or do you want to choose to level up, go to the next level, and choose to learn how to live unconditionally in love? Unconditional love is the 5D plane, and that is loving everybody as yourself. That golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Seeing everybody as a reflection of the divine. That namaste is what they say in yoga, and namaste, when you translate that, means I see the divine in you as the divine in me, and it's that I am you, you're me kind of concept. And so you can really have a choice about, like, how do you want to be in the world? And I've really had, I was having a hard time processing that information, because that information was what I got clearly in my journey, and trying to process, wait a minute, we're all alike, there is no separation. This is what my guidance has been giving me, that there is no separation, there's no other. We're all just different facets of God, experiencing life through our eyes and through our mental perceptions. Everybody is a fractal of the one. These are the lessons that I've been given by my guidance. And how can we all be the one? No separation. We're all one. This lesson, juxtaposed with the lesson that now we're in the choice point and there's going to be a separation between 3D and 5D. And I've been really grappling with, how do you get, we're going to have a separation of planet Earth, and then at the same time you're telling me that there is no separation and that we are all one and we are all equal in the eyes of the Lord. These two things didn't seem like they matched, and I was getting a little confused in my own head about how to work through that, how to process that. And in my journaling, I journal daily. I try to journal daily. I actually don't often make it daily, but I journal at least every other day. And in my journaling, in processing that lesson about there is no separation, and yet we're at the choice point where there's going to be a separation, and Jesus had been quoting in my head during my journey about separating the wheat from the chaff, the lambs from the goats, and the separating that's happening. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I thought we were supposed to be unifying. How come the separation? And what was revealing itself to me as I was journaling, literally writing the question, how can this be? How can we be one and whole in God and still be going through this choice point separation? And what came through was the lesson of the prodigal son. So if you have been raised in the Baptist church as I was, then you know Bible stories by heart. And a very famous one is one that Jesus told about the prodigal son. And it was a story about how a son decides to leave his family and go away from his father and his mother and his family and go out on his own. He runs away and decides he's going to live his life however he wants to live his life. And he chooses to separate himself and goes down some very rocky paths and has, some very hard times, and winds up having a lot of hurt and pain and struggle in his life. And finally, at some point, when he's had enough of trying to do things on his own without his family and without his father, he decides to, broke without any money, come crawling back home. And he doesn't think his father will accept him, and he's fully prepared to be rejected, as he is now a broken man. And what happens instead, as he comes crawling home, is his father sends out the staff to greet him and carry him home, and they have a big banquet welcoming him home, and he welcomes him home with open arms, fully loved, with the lesson being that the Father gives you the freedom to separate yourself and to go explore the world. Go be as bad as you want to be and see how that works for you. And you get the freedom to experience whatever it is that you want to go try out, and whatever it is that you want to go explore, and that you want to go delve down that dark path and see where that leads. You have the freedom to do that. But you can never not be of the Father. You will always be the son or daughter of the Father. You will always be welcomed home, because you are home. That is your home. And in my journey, as I was going through this ayahuasca journey, and I'm on the underworld, and I'm interviewing all these demons and scary monsters about, do you choose love or do you choose fear? Do you choose love or do you choose fear? Giving them the opportunity to make their own free will choice of, do you want to get out of here and go to the 5D, or do you want to stay here and do this fear, hate stuff that you're up to? And I was getting tired of it. I was like, I want to get back up into the love and the light. I'm sick of being down here. This is all, I'm blah. It just felt so heavy, and so I wanted to get back up in the love and the light. And God came through to me. It was like he was speaking in my ear, like in the back of my head. But God was speaking to me in my head as I was interviewing all these demons in my journey. And as I was like complaining that I'm kind of tired of this, can we go back to the good stuff and get into the love and the light? And God was telling me, Martha, you are light. You come from light. You can be nothing other than light. No matter where you are light. Shine your light in this darkness. Be the light. And it's kind of reiterating that story that Jesus told of the prodigal son. You come from light. You are light. You are loved. You are love. You can be nothing other than love. No matter how far you stray, no matter what awful thing you try, you still have that spark of the divine in you. And you can never, ever not be that. You cannot be something that you are. And it's just kind of a beautiful lesson. It reminds me of studying the book, and it's an odd example, but this is what comes to mind. Bram Stoker's Dracula. I am an English literature major, and we studied that book in English literature, and it's a horror story, as you all know, the story of Dracula. But if you read the novel or watch the Gary Oldman and Keanu Reeves version of Dracula is wonderfully done. Where the story is that Dracula is off fighting a battle, and his bride, his beloved bride, back in Transylvania, gets word that he's been killed in the battle. But he, in fact, has not been killed. He was just wounded. And in her grief of hearing that her husband had been killed in the battle, she jumps to her death in the story, committing suicide, because she can't live without her beloved husband. Well, when Count Dracula gets back to his castle after the war, and he finds that his bride has died and committed suicide by the incorrect news that he had been killed, he gets angry at God. This is the story, the Bram Stoker's Dracula story. He gets angry at God and declares war on God. How can God allow this to happen to me? How can a loving God allow something so horrible and tragic to happen in this world? If there is a God of love, how can this happen? And in his grief, he turns to rage and declares war on God. And in the story, the Count turns into a horrible, evil demon that cannot be killed and that sucks the blood of living people to replenish his dead body, that he has to lie in a coffin during the daytime because he can't be touched by the light, because he's decided he wants to own the darkness. And he kind of turns away from God and purposefully does horrible, awful things. In the book, in the movies, Dracula is a horrible, awful character and does purposefully horrible, awful things with the intent of hurting other people. We've all heard that quib, hurt people hurt people. Hurt people end up hurting other people because they're hurt. And so in that story, Dracula decides to hurt other people because he is hurt and he has grief that he cannot process. And that's kind of what this choice point that we're living through right now reminds me of very much. The story of Dracula. The separation is not God separating from you. It's you choosing to separate yourself from God to go have an experience. Go be the prodigal son. Go check that out. Go down that dark path. See how that works out for you. Go. You want to go kill a bunch of people and rape and maim and do all those horrible things? Hate? Go explore how hate benefits you in your life. Go explore how cheating other people out of money and becoming wealthy and rich off of the backs of other people. Go see how that works out for you. Go see whatever darkness you want to explore. Go explore it. God gave us free will, and that's kind of this separation thing that's happening right now, this choice point. You get to choose. Do you want to go explore more about what it means to love others and love yourself unconditionally? You want to go explore unconditional love? Or do you want to, keep exploring this hate and fear stuff? And so as we're having this choice point, is just bringing back all these old stories. By the way, the Dracula story, I didn't finish it. Let me finish this Dracula story real quick. The story of Dracula in the book, and actually in the movie, in the end, Dracula finds his beloved wife, who is now reincarnated, hundreds of years later. And he finds his beloved, and she goes to him, and he tries to corrupt her to be in the darkness and be in the death and the dying with him. And Dracula gets his head almost cut off. They try to chop his head off, and they don't actually kill him. And his beloved takes him into the castle, and where he had the strength, the beautiful line in the movie, Gary Oldman actually decided to play the role of Dracula because of this one line. He wanted to bring this line to life. I have traveled oceans of time to find you. And to find his love, he, made himself immortal and traveled through oceans of time to find her. And she, in turn, had the strength and the power to kill him, put him out of his misery. He was struggling and dying, and she stabs him with the stake and kills him. And in that moment of love, unconditional love, that it took her to unconditionally love him to kill him, it's a very deep story. In the unconditional love that took her to kill him, he realizes that unconditional love is truly immortal, and that is the way, and he begs forgiveness. And the end scene in the novel is he returns and is restored back to his human self, and is redeemed and is forgiven. And it's a story of redemption. It's a story of redemption. It doesn't matter how far you stray. It doesn't matter what horrible thing you do. It could be Dracula. It could be Hitler. Mussolini. Name some tyrants who've been horrible, murdering, awful tyrants that have done horrible things in this world. Horrible people. Axe murderers. It doesn't matter. It does not matter how far you stray down that path. What kind of hell you spin up in your own life that you choose to walk down. How many people you hurt. You can always be forgiven because you come from light. You are light. You can be nothing but light, no matter where you find yourself. You are light. You come from light. You can be nothing but light. That's what God had told me in my journey. And the challenge for me on my journey was to give that message to these horrible demons that were trying to, get in me and get at me, and giving them this choice of, okay, look, you can choose love or you can choose fear. And even if you choose fear, you're choosing to turn away. You're choosing a 3D environment. You're choosing to remain in darkness, even though telling these demons what God was telling me, speaking this through me to the demons, you are light. You can be nothing other than light. No matter where you are, where you find yourself, you are light. And so that message of we are all one and yet we are going through a separation makes more sense when you realize that it's not God doing the separation, it's our own choice. We're choosing to separate. And it's a time of empowerment. I feel it's a time of empowerment. anytime there's a time of open free will where we get to choose what we want to experience, what we want to play with in this infinite universe that we are all living in, your soul never dies. It's just a continuous journey of continuous evolving, and it's God exploring every avenue of experience through you, through each one of us, through every living thing, through anything that exists is a exploration of God to check that out. Let's check that out. Let's check out what it means to live in the darkness. Let's check out how far that dark hole goes. Let's check out how it feels, to have hate in your heart. Let's check out how it feels to forget. It's another aspect of the choosing fear, is the forgetting that you are love and that you are light, that you come from love and that you can be nothing but love, because that is what you are made of. It's a forgetfulness process that happens, of forgetting where you come from, forgetting what your soul's essence is, and that forgetfulness that I was dealing with a lot in my ayahuasca journey. That it was really interesting to be confronted with a scary entity and giving them this point of choice. And sometimes they were like, oh, we get to go in the light. And it was like they'd forgotten that that's where they come from, and that they had the choice to do something different, to be different. That was a revelation. And you could see it on their faces when they did want to choose to go and choose love and go to the light. They had forgotten. It was a forgetfulness. They'd strayed so far away from home that they'd forgotten where they come from. And the level of, it was just a lot of what we go through as humans. I was experiencing this in a spirit world kind of environment. They forgot that they were worthy. They forgot that they were capable. And it was even though it was frightening, it was a little frightening, but it was more beautiful. And it's just, as I'm a death doula, this is what that path is. Can be frightening and scary, but it's also so beautiful and holy. And when you understand that you come from light and you're going to light, and that this is a going home process, and that's what this is kind of all about. And we kind of constantly circle around this yin yang, going into the darkness and going into the light, and going into the darkness and going into the light, and almost a spiraling around darkness and light, darkness and light, darkness and light. But we spiral up, so we're never in the exact same place at the same time. We're always growing and expanding and learning and changing. And even when we choose to have a negative experience, or a negative experience happens to us, because hurt people, sometimes people who didn't want to get hurt, because hurt people. And that's part of the experience too. Everything is all about experiencing, learning how to love in every possible scenario. How to unconditionally love no matter where you find yourself, no matter when you find yourself, no matter what you find yourself as we travel through this universe, infinitely changing, infinitely experiencing different scenarios across time and space. We have choices, and we're going to run into choices our whole existence. But this one's a big one. This one's a big one on planet Earth right now, that we get to choose which kind of experience we want to have. It's our choice to separate ourselves from God, from love, from light, from the universal 5D dimensionality. And you can choose to separate, or you can choose to merge and have that unconditional love merging kind of experience in a 5D. Or you can choose to try to play out this separation game and see how it feels to be separate from love and from light. Now, what they also showed me, one more thing that they showed me in my meditations, I was like, ooh, that doesn't feel good, because is God going to let those people who choose fear just have a horrible hellscape, experiences? And that seems, I don't like the feel of that. And what my spirit guides also taught me and reminded me is that is just an experience. Nothing is permanent. There is no hell but what we make. We make our own hell, basically. That's what they've shown me. That we create our own hell in our minds and actions. And that's part of the free will. You can't have free will without letting people stray into whatever they isn't going to be happy. But that's not permanent. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent. There will always be a turning of the wheel. There will always be the flowing, that yin yang, kind of thing. It's always, always, always turning. So even if the people who choose to live in hate and fear, stay on the 3D plane, it's not like a hopeless situation. It's just a different path. They keep showing me it's like all roads lead to Rome. Again, God in my head, even right now as I'm talking, you are light. You come from light. You can be nothing but light. Even in the darkness, you are light. And it's just so clear that you can go in the darkness. You're still a fractal of God. You are still a divine being, even though you might try to do horrible things and create horrible experiences. That's just you checking out how that feels to be a serial killer, or it's choosing to explore the darkness. And it's not the end of the world if loved ones and family members and people that you care about choose that path. We have to let them go down that path. You have to be the father in the prodigal son story. You have to let them go down that journey. It's their journey. They have free will. They can take that journey. And letting them go down that path to explore the darkness, knowing that eventually at some point in time, the wheel will turn and they will have a choice to come back home. My cat wants to be part of her. So it's not a end-all be-all. The world is separating and you're going to be separated from God. You cannot be separated from God. It's impossible to be separated from God. You might forget that you're separated, that you're not separated from God. And you can have an experience of separation by choosing to be separate from God. My cat. But this is not something that is forever. There will come a time, who knows how long. There's a lot of ancient Hindu scripts about the Kali Yuga, which is the turning of the wheel. It's 26,000 years. Every 26,000 years, they say that there's a turning of the wheel. Is it going to be 26,000 years that you want to wait to get another chance to choose love? I don't know. It seems like a long time to wait and check out the dark side. But as we know, we always have the ability to choose love. I think that knowing that you are always light, I think it's just a matter of instantaneously, if you truly choose in your heart that you choose love, I can't imagine. I mean, in my heart of hearts, I really think that no matter where you are, what you choose, what dimension you're in, if you come to the point where you choose love, you're going to be in the 5D, because that's the love environment. So we'll see what my spirit guides say about that, and what you get. What do you get from your spirit guides? Are you is this resonating with you? What my spirit guides are teaching me about it, is this resonating with you? So I hope that has helped a little bit explain this concept of the separation, this choice that we have, choosing love and choosing fear, and that there will be some sort of separation between the 3D world and the 5D world. And that, okay, before we go, let me just talk about that, because I've also been curious how in the world can we have a 3D environment and a 5D environment. And they've been showing me the multiverse, and it seems very Marvel comic stuff to me, but actually it makes a lot of sense. They've been showing me about a multiverse, and that there's always an infinite number of dimensions of this planet, this universe, this galaxy, and that there are an infinite number of Earths on an infinite number of dimensions, and that we're constantly shifting at every moment. If you know anything about quantum physics, the electron pops in and pops out, pops in and pops out, and it gets all weird in quantum physics with the multiverse and changing dimensions, and at any moment in time how you can change dimensions by your choices. So it's kind of fun to think about that, you know, while we're in this separation point between a 3D and a 5D dimension, at any moment you can change and pop into a different dimension if you make that choice in your heart and in your soul. So that's kind of interesting to go explore quantum physics and what quantum physics has to say about changing dimensionalities, and what that means for people who choose one dimension over another. It's just a choice away to pop back. So I hope hope that that has helped answer. Oh, one more thing. Things keep popping. I'm sorry. Things keep popping. And I'm getting more and more examples to give you about how we today have a different dimensionality perspectives where we're perceiving the world differently. Even today, right now, today, they're giving me North Korea, South Korea. North Korea and South Korea, you know, are countries that are right next door to each other and have vastly different experiences of life right now, today. North Korea, as you know, is a communist country run by a tyrannical dictator, and the people there have kind of, it looks like horrible lives from what I've seen on the news, that they don't have any choices, not many choices at least, and that they have to do a lot of manual labor, and that they all kind of live very sparse lives, and it looks really miserable. Right next door to South Korea, which is, you know, highly technically advanced society, modern society with, you know, all of the glitz and bling of a modern day world. People driving fancy cars and going to movies and eating out and living their lives. Right next door to that, they're living a very, 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 very different environment. And so they just showed me just now in my head about how that is kind of like what the separation on this planet is gonna like be. It's like we can still all be on planet Earth and have very different environments, very different perceptions of our realities. How that all plays out is going to be interesting to see in the coming years and months. It does feel like the choice point thing is coming to a head, and it's kind of boiling up. It feels like something's going to happen this fall. It's what I'm getting with a real kind of jarring. Something's going to happen. I don't know. Is it the election? Maybe. But something's going to happen that will kind of really solidify people's choice. That what are you going to do? Are you going to, you know, view the world as hostile and fearful, or are you going to view the world as loving and you know, unified? So those are some thoughts that I have been having on what I have experienced recently. Give it a minute. So, thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast. To learn more about this choice point and what the separation means, if you have enjoyed this podcast, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. We'll be discussing more about life lessons that we learn as we explore more about learning about death here at Tales of a Death Doula. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a blessed day.